Hello. Jace, I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
I did mute for a minute.
Good now.
Welcome to this session of Soul Connections with my sister and tribe member, I call her Rasslin Rose. Forgive me, it's Rasslin Reese. And we're going to begin with a very gentle tune called Cicada by you, Oko, and my baby Chemo. Core, excuse me, my baby Chemo Cornwell. We're just going to start gently because this has the potential to ramp up. So in order, we're going to start with something real sweet and calm. Hey, Dream. Ah, beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely. Today in Atlanta, it's a laid back, overcast day with our bipolar weather. We've gone from in December having -4 or 14 degrees. In a couple of days, the last couple of days, we've been over 70 degrees. And the sun has been warm. I love the sun, so I make it a point to get out in it and let it warm my skin and make me a nice toasty color. I want to thank Chef Leftovers. I love your name. I hope you'll join us. Again, we do this every Saturday, and sometimes I'll come on when something's on my mind in the middle of the week. And with that name, you sound like you could come on and give us some recipes or something. I love to cook, and I know how to repurpose a leftover, but it's always nice to hear from professionals. You don't wear I'm put my banner up because something wonderful. Something wonderful isn't about to happen. Something wonderful is already happening because guess what? We woke up this morning, which in and of itself is miraculous, and the divine saw fit to give us the precious breath of life, for without it, our asses wouldn't be here. Be just that simple. Your ass is a goner. I didn't really know how to title this because I have to acknowledge Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and his holiday, which is not nationwide and which in some states is even going to be a day that you take for that, if you take it, it's looked at as PTO or something. It's a toss up. Which to me is despicable. However, I live in the city where there is a huge memorial. The King Center is here, and every weekend, whenever his birthday comes up, there's a lot of celebration. I have my own memories of Dr. King and meeting him. I think I might have mentioned my mother was the secretary of an NAACP in the state of Nevada. I say Nevada because I'm classy and sophisticated, but Nevadans don't like that. So fuck you, excuse me. I did say that this is adult language, and I do have a tendency to use the F word because I think we all have an allotment every year. And I haven't used all of mine up from 2021 or 22. So, it rolls over. So there's always a big celebration. As you know, Senator Raphael Warnock, yay! The pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, Dr. King's church from his father's time, was here, as was President Joe Biden. Yes, Joe. I don't know that any president has, well, maybe Clinton and some others came when John Lewis, President Obama has graced that pulpit. But it was wonderful to see Joe in town to acknowledge Dr. King's birthday and his work for the cause of civil rights rights that Black people are still fighting for, and rights which white aligned immigrants. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't say things to offend. If you are offended, go somewhere else, because I'm going to speak my mind. I am a Black woman in these United States of America, and since everybody want to scream about their First Amendment rights, I have a right to speak on my experience in these United States of America. And my memories of Dr. King, I was a little girl. I don't even remember what age, but I was always a very aware child. I was always curious, and I knew, within the Black community, you always, know when somebody's special coming, because my mother was a bomb cook, but she really turned it out. When Dr. King was coming, he was accompanied by a very handsome Julian Bond, a gentleman that I was reunited with when I attended the University of Hartford, and was working for the first Black newspaper on the Eastern Seaboard called the Hartford Star. He came to the university, Julian did, for our Black Student Union meeting or celebration or whatever was going on. But anyway, I knew this man was special. He was short in stature. He wasn't a big guy. But I do remember loving his speaking voice. He was very, very friendly, to my sister. And he was just a lovely human being. And we knew somebody special was coming, because we were able to keep on our church clothes. When you came home from church, you get out of your church clothes, put on your play clothes. And so the food was good. He was very gracious, had a great sense of humor, and he spoke, then of course, the children are excused, and they spoke about the NAACP chapters that were forming in our little town of Hawthorne and Reno, and then Las Vegas, where there's a huge number. My family and my ancestors have been united with Las Vegas since the gangster days, So there's a huge democratic constituency there. But our history goes far beyond what Dr. King has done. You also know that there is a concerted effort by Abbott and DeSantis, who don't want African American studies. We're going to get into that in school, because somehow or another they want to call the study of slavery in this country, which is American history. It ain't the pretty part. But if you dig into America's history, you see ain't much about it pretty. It didn't come about in a benevolent and peaceful and pretty way. There was war at the formation of this nation. So don't nobody need to act like this country, the white slavers who drafted and wrote the Constitution, who themselves were slave owners and did not consider us to be human beings. We were thought to be the missing link between ape and man. And that didn't just begin in this country. The colonizers spread that bullshit from sea to shining motherfucking sea. Hey, Ronnie. Hey, Black Cat. Thank you for joining us. So I get really, really angry. First of all, I'm proud. I'm proud to be a Black woman. I'm real proud. I'm proud of the contributions that I know my immediate family made to this country, not disregarding what my ancestors, men and women, may have endured in the building of this nation. the blood that has been shed. You know, Billie Holiday has a song called Strange Fruit. It says the trees on the south in the south bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood on the roots. The very trees that grow in the south and other places, it's extended to the north as well, because Southerners went to the north with the same bullshit they were clinging to here. They went to the north and spread this racism. They took it there too. So wherever there is a white person who has ties with the South, or is a descendant of someone from the South, and they are rehashing that bullshit, it exists in the North too, because the North was where cotton was being shipped. Lehman Brothers, I wasn't sorry when those bitches went broke, because they were the very first cotton brokers in this country, but I digress. I get upset because it seems that the only history anybody in this country wants to acknowledge is when Dr. King's birthday comes up. And then, of course, next month will be Black History Month. You know, they kicked us down 28, sometimes 29 days, you know, where we hold events and educate, but there seems to be an issue right now because I have Rasslin is younger than I am. We're going to speak on the perspective of where are we now in this continuing fight and movement for civil rights that has benefited white aligning immigrants that come to this country. We'll get into that, as well as the LGBTQIA community. And as a professed bisexual woman, it felt so good to be able to say it out loud after years of wanting to ignore it or not mention it. So I want y'all to know that we over in this house and in my tribe, we welcome all with love and affection, compassion, and mercy. That it seems that when this time comes around, we're the focus is on Dr. King, but this struggle began at the inception of this nation. White slavers labored under the false knowledge that African slaves, the people they brought here, knew nothing about freedom. They didn't understand, however, how we could look up in our ancestors could look up in the skies, see the direction the birds were traveling in. They could smell the scents coming from the wind and the water and their surroundings, that they had innate ways, spiritual ways that led them to freedom. Because as many of them perished, even in the voyage, in the transit, as they jumped into the water, because they would rather die than get here, hence to chains, so that they couldn't leave the ships. This fight for freedom didn't just begin with Dr. King. We have Sojourner Truth, who actually spoke before a white woman's organization. I don't know which one. I can tell you that when I was in high school, I wanted to join the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I didn't know that I had to be white in order to do so, because I was operating on the assumption that I had somebody connected to the revolution too, that I am a daughter of someone who fought and shed blood in this nation. So our history here began at the inception and the alleged founding of this nation. Sharon, also, thank you. I just love Sharon's site, the Queen Warrior Troll Killer. If you can also put Rasslin Reed's YouTube address
Thank you.
in the chat as well. Now, Tanya is on vacation. Our fire and passion, well, she's on vacation. I don't know if she's watching. I hope she is. And if not, wherever, if she's with her son, I hope they're having a rip-roaring good time. And she's much better at reading the chat and talking than I am. I have to continue on a roll because I have a tendency with all of this Libra, Gemini wind blowing on. I can blow off anywhere at any time. So I really express bitterness at the fact that the only acknowledgement we seem to get, an acknowledgement of anything being done for the building of this nation, comes around Dr. King's birthday. And while I'm thankful for it, to me, Black history is every day of my Black life. It's every single day, because every day I am living Black history.
That's right. Amen.
Now, during this time, also, Joy Reid, Christopher Hayes, and a brother, forgive me, brother, I know your name is Trayvon or Trayon. He is a podcaster for MSNBC, and he does go through cities in the South and elsewhere, chronicling the history of Black people in this nation. Hosted the National Day of Racial Healing. I appreciate the effort. We need 400 days, 400 years of racial healing. Not just a few days, not just a day, not just 28 or 29 days in February. White America has never accepted, and neither have white aligned immigrants who come here wanting to be on the winning side. They have never acknowledged that we didn't come here because we were looking for a better life. We were forced to be here. And quiet as it's kept, there was some Black folks already here, along with the First Nation people. This was not a lost land. So how you gonna find something that isn't lost, claim it for a bitch, because you don't see nobody, and then fight the very people who lived here prior to your arrival, who helped you understand this new land. And
thank you, Black Cat.
Yeah, Black Cat, that's real sweet of you. Thank you so much for coming over from Rasslin and I. And I hope that you'll like and subscribe over here, because we are sister, we are like kindred spirits, if you will. Yeah, so I had to share that with you. And while I'm sharing, let's share a little bit of Black history. On January 18th in 1858, Daniel Hale Williams made history as the first person to perform a successful open heart surgery. He was born on January 8th. He was born, on January 18th, 1858, in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. And as a young age, he expressed interest in medicine, and he completed an apprenticeship with Dr. Henry Palmer, an accomplished surgeon. He finished his medical training at Chicago Medical College. As a Black doctor, Williams made it his mission to provide opportunities for other African Americans who were barred from working at hospitals because of racism. In 1891, he founded the Providence Hospital and Training School for Nurses, the first medical facility to hire an interracial staff. His greatest accomplishment came in 1893. So I stand corrected with my first comment. He was born in 1858. In 1893, he operated the first open heart surgery on James Cornish, and Cornish lived for many years after that. The following year, Williams took his post as the chief surgeon of the Freedmen's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Wow.
Wow.
Bet you didn't know that. And what we're going to do is every Saturday we come back, we're going to drop a little bit more of Black history on you. So prior to coming on, Rasslin and I had a conversation backstage about where we have been, how far or not we have come. And because she is a millennial, I wanted her to, we're going to have a conversation about the feelings of young Black people her age. And she can probably relate to someone younger as well, but I wanted to know about how do you feel about the movement, if you will, leading up to Black Lives Matter. So, but how as a millennial, do you feel we've progressed as a people or not?
I feel like we've made strides and progressions, but at the same time, there's still so much more work to be done. I think in this day and age, like the ability to just gain capital, gain a little bit more wealth with the internet. There's more opportunities. It's out here, especially with the pandemic. People said, screw working for somebody else. I want to do some stuff on my own. I could just, take my own talents, my own hobbies, and do things that I love and give back in the way that I see fit.
Becoming a CEO of your own thing.
Yeah. And I think the problem lies in just us coming together a bit more. I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings between the generations. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of trauma that we as a people have to still deal with. And it's hard because having to come from where we came from to just be able to acknowledge that this is a generational curse, as you will, or this trauma, just getting to that point and having to live your life with everything else, the million other things that they drop on you, not just as a person, an American in general, because everybody is getting worked to death. But we have our own set of specific issues compounded over time that have just been left, to the wayside. And like you said, Jace, it's only brought up during Black History Month or Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And we as a society and we as a people also have to understand that No, this is a continuous thing. You know, we have to continuously work at it. We've become complacent, like what we were saying backstage, just complacent as a society. But the society breeds the complacency. It wants you. It's all of the distractions they put in front of you. It's, you know, don't look here, look over there. It's everything is fine. It's, you know, you should be angry at these people instead of the real issues. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, because of the society that we're in, they work you to death, you know. So it's hard for people to see. And that's why this time is so important and things have gotten so crazy because you have to see it. There's
Yeah,
no choice now. It's
yeah.
either sink or swim. You know what I mean? It you can't turn away from it. So what are we going to do about it?
I have to agree with you. I can relate my experiences as a child. I remember the protests because my parents were actively involved. I remember that we had to again get up and dress in our very best. There was always a woman or two to take all the children to one space where we would be safe and look over us while our parents marched and were called niggas and had rotten fruit and just shit thrown at them um, by those who then and now still think that they are superior. There is, we'll discuss that at some point. You know, you are not superior. Uh, and thinking to myself how frightened I was that these mean, angry people screaming at these Black people peacefully protesting and marching, that they could hurt or kill my parents. I remember that succinctly. When I remember also that whenever we studied anything about the Civil War, whenever we studied anything covering that era, we didn't get jack about slavery. It might have been a paragraph. It might have been a line in his story book. Uh, I remember when we would have film day, and any of these films would have Africans dancing. I would be grooving to the beat, to the drums, listening to the drums while a fellow classmate hung his head in shame as a white classmate laughed, thinking that this was some fucking comedy. And now we're in the 21st century with governors, school districts all across this country actively attempting to keep African American studies out of schools. And the reason is within the last 20 years or so, descendants of the slaves have been telling their stories and not the slavers themselves. Descendants have been tracing their bloodlines and their history and reading slave narratives and telling our stories ourselves. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. African American history is Black history. In an ideal world, anybody who is on this soil could just be an American. But it's separate. We have Irish Americans, Italian Americans, uh, Cuban, you know, everybody tags on their ethnic name to in front of American. And if anybody else can be happy about their lineage, we should be able to be happy about ours as well. Now, Rasslin, you're younger than me. What were you taught about slavery?
Well, like you said, Jace, you maybe got a line. If that, we got maybe a couple, maybe a page, I'd say. Maybe a paragraph to a page, but it's still the same three things. You know, you have Martin Luther King. They'll usually have a few paragraphs about that. They would talk about slavery, maybe a page or two on slavery, if that, and it didn't really show the fierce brutality of it all. They left a lot of that out. And what else? Rosa Parks, the
Yeah.
same, the greatest hits, as
Yeah.
I would say. They replayed the greatest hits. So it was nothing. I found out more and more in my adulthood or from what my parents taught me, because my parents were older. Um, so they told me about sundown towns and things like that. And when I grew up in a particularly peculiar environment. So I'm in Ohio. Yes, pray for me.
Yeah, well,
And
because you got Jim Jordan, and I really pray for you. And I'm praying that his ass get locked up. But anyway, get found out and locked up. That foaming at the mouth.
so where
Bastard.
I grew,
Anyway, go ahead. But
where
at
I
least
grew
you
up.
got a page. Was there any kind of open opportunity to discuss it in your classroom?
No. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Where I grew up is this town. It's called Garfield Heights, and me and my parents lived on the cusp between Garfield Heights and Cleveland. And Cleveland was where most of the Black people are. That's the major city. Now, here's the gag about this that people have been fighting for years and years and years. Whilst I live in Garfield Heights, I could not go to Garfield Heights school, right?
Why not?
The only thing I could think of is pure racism, because you can clearly see where the line of where it gets more white versus where that median line where it starts to get blacker. It's still considered Garfield Heights, but it's right by Cleveland. So for whatever reason, there have been people paying Garfield Heights taxes who can't go to Garfield Heights schools. So I went to Catholic schools growing up, which
I'm
was
praying.
it was very interesting, very, very
Yes.
interesting. And the students were all Black students because of the neighborhood in which we lived in. While it was still Garfield Heights,
Mm-hmm.
it was the Black side of Garfield Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really it burns me up to this day. People have been fighting that and fighting that and fighting that. And they're just like, no, I can't. You can't come over here. So what we learned about uh was, like I said, it was usually the greatest hits. We got to pay maybe a page and a half of about slavery. We didn't really talk about it too much. It was a classroom full of Black kids, mostly white teachers who were nuns. Very nice women, by the way. They were very nice to me, except for one. She still strikes fear into my heart years and years later. She was pretty mean, but she was pretty mean. Um, but yeah, that's all we got. I mean, until I went to high school, I went to two separate high schools. So I went to a public high school for my first couple of years, and that's when I got my first taste of diversity, which I loved, I loved, I loved. It was the best thing. I love talking to people, no matter where they come from, what they look like. It's always been really exciting to me. So with that, we didn't.
Well,
What did
yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's
the
like? I mean,
stories of the struggle, which we are still engaged in, were passed down by my grandparents and my parents and my aunts, and my mother made it a point. Oh God, was I Barbara? You know, you were the bomb. You are the bomb, girl. She made it a point to teach us about our history at home, and her phrase at the beginning of this was, they're going to teach you this about you in school. I'm going to teach you about yourself and why you should carry your history with pride. And Mary Thornberry, thank you. I do want to say hello to Mita or Meter. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And to Doreen. Um, I want to thank you for your comment, because we will
so
absolutely
true.
address that. I mean, if it's you can imagine the hopelessness that Black youth feel. Um, I wasn't even I wasn't even growing up. Of course, I was living on Jason's planet, where everything was music and sunny and fabulous in my mind. I was not a social kid. Um, I didn't even know that there was the racism was stealth.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't. There was a community where all the Black people lived, and maybe some white folks, because it was the home of the largest ammunition depot in the world. So there were people from all over the country would come there to work there, you know, because it was a military installation. There were lots of soldiers that came from all over to train there, do whatever, and to my knowledge, are still doing that. I wasn't aware of it until, you know, and in our household, I was always the one that was bringing something, a stray animal or a schoolmate home, and in our home, when because we would get through playing, and it was always around dinner time, that it because the food smells so, hey Electra, because the food smells so good, if the children wanted to stay and eat, and they were fed. Now, Nevada is heavily populated by Mormons, and so there were several classmates who were members of the Mormon uh, church. I didn't know that at that time Black people were not welcomed nor invited into this church. I'll tell you about my experience in that church. Um, it wasn't to, you know, until one day I went home with a classmate, a white classmate, invited me to her home for dinner, and her father refused to come in and sit at the dinner table while I was there. Now, as a curious little girl, I wanted to know why. Why didn't you join it? Why didn't you come in and eat dinner? You know, not thinking at all that his racism prevented him from sitting down at the table with us. I grew up, my education, I grew up near the Paiute Indian Reservation. And so there were Paiute First Nation people there. There were Black kids, of course, and there were white kids. And um, it was always interesting that there wasn't really a concerted effort by white kids to join in Black, you know, to invite Black children to play with them or join in our conversations or anything, but it always was interesting that if we got together and we're and doing engaged in horseplay or just chat again, I was not a social child. I'd rather go sit in the sun with my pretty little dresses on and sing my songs and let the sun bathe me. I didn't like boys chasing. All that shit made no sense to me. You know, besides, I thought boys stank. So, anyway, uh, whenever we would get together, here would come the principal, who's in high school. His name was Delbert Cornella. I'll never forget him. Would come and break it up because you see, we couldn't congregate because that we were friends and our parents were friends and worked together and we knew each other because for some reason they thought that that was going to that was a gang thing. I didn't even know nothing about, didn't nobody know about no fucking gangs. I mean, it was just us being kids and teenagers playing with the kids that we played with all the time, because there were not any white kids trying to join us and play. And the only real interracial activities where that occurred was in sports, because of course some, if not all, of the best sportsmen were black boys, black men. I'm going to put up a couple of comments because I see some interesting ones here. Let us begin with, I want to begin with, is it meet her or might her? You're right. AM radio does carry a lot of those racist, wake up white people's, what do you call them?
It's a bunch of white grievance, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And my grandfather would tell me growing up, because he would listen to the AM radio station, and I would just be like, why are you listening to this? I have no idea why you're listening to this. And he told me, you have to know what your enemies are doing. You have
Wise
to
man.
know what they're thinking, what they're planning, how they're moving. Because it's all strategy. I mean, you have to
Mm-hmm.
think about it in terms of strategically. The people who have the power, they don't want to give all of that up. And we're not
No.
saying that it's, every, white person is just rage out, horrible, clan hood, but you don't have to wear a clan hood, because unfortunately just the system and the society of how it was put together and how it was built, it's a lot of it is just baked into the culture. And it's not, that's why you have a lot of people that say, well, I don't feel this way, and I have friends and
Yeah, I have a black friend, so
you
therefore
know
I'm
and
not
and
racist.
and they mean well, and when y'all sit there and they'll talk to you and be just as nice as pie. And it's the invisible ether
Mm-hmm.
in our culture, to where that's why we miscommunicate. We're saying the same things over and over and over again, and it seems like you're not listening. It, it, it it's that, and it's not even intangible, you know what I mean? Because it's there, we see it because we're on the other side. But
Right.
when you're in it, they don't see it. And at this point in time, that's why I'll raise the point again. Things are getting so crazy. How many times have you heard people say, I didn't know it was like this. I had
Uh-huh.
no idea it was this bad. I had no idea it was. Yes, because it's gotten to the point where you have to look at it. And it's fine. We're going to get through it. We will.
We are getting through it, and I want to say that this negative image of black people isn't, black Americans isn't just isolated in America because of
No,
the power of media. Immigrants come here with preconceived notions about who black people are, and how so that when they come here, they're thinking of us as lazy. Now, how can you be beaten to death working in a cotton field or working for a white man, beaten, starved, humiliated, uh, and call us lazy, or that we're thieves, or that you have to protect your women from the from black men who are are going to rape your lily white women. How even in terms of drug culture, how there was a movie called Reefer Madness, and the person that is depicted as being a wild, deranged human being is a black man. That is nationwide, I mean worldwide, and I can speak on it because I've had the pleasure of traveling to other countries. I also have had conversations with immigrants, and one I'll share one with you, and it was when my mother transitioned, and I happened to go in a convenience store, and the man who owned the convenience store was a Middle Eastern descent. I don't know, I don't know, but he was Middle Eastern. And I went in, and he said, "Oh, you're not from here, are you?" And I said, "Well, I was born here. I'm here for my mother's homegoing." He asked me where I lived. I said, "Well, now I reside in Atlanta." His reaction to me was, I was in Atlanta, and I was surprised by the number of Black professionals, which of course made my fangs grow. And I asked him, "Why were you surprised? What was surprising to you?" And while there's always this focus on single parent families of Black boys and girls being reared by a single mother, somehow and we will talk about this at some point, when Black people began to appear on television and the Cosbys came on, somehow they were looked upon as being the exception instead of the norm. That we didn't have solid family units. We didn't have solid, even if it was your grandmother and grandfather, that you didn't have a solid family, stable, productive Black families. And Electra, yeah, I gotta say that one of the reasons that white people, supremacists, got so angry is because a Black man who wasn't a butler became the president of this nation. And I remember hearing angry white folks saying that they were coming to take their country back.
This
Yeah.
whole
And they will use that as an example of, well, racism doesn't exist. Again, white folks have an issue with accepting the fact that racism is systemic. It runs through this nation just as fiercely as rivers run through this nation. It is baked into the laws. It's baked into education. The cry of critical race theory, which is taught only as a graduate study in some law schools where they study the system of racism. See, we have to understand that when that Constitution and those laws were put in place, we were not included because we were not thought of to be human. We were 3/5 of a person. We weren't that. The laws are working for the people that wrote them. Richard Pryor once said that in the justice system, you only see just us. And it's they are raging about woke being woke. So that's another thing, Tia, I'd like to ask you in this whole alleged woke culture, where young people and old people alike are speaking loudly. They're up, screaming, like you said. Now it's out in the open. Now with the orange fog having had 4 years and continued years of playing on the self-hatred, the lack of education, the racism of white people by massaging that. We now are, if you speak with any amount of intelligence on the truth, that somehow there's something wrong with that white people are satisfied with lying about their history because they thought they were just lying to us. They did not understand that you lying to your own too. And that whenever you tell a kid what they can't do, what do? We go out and we do exactly what we're told. We don't touch the fire. Well, you got to get burned to understand that it's hot. I'm going to put up another comment. Oh, Meter, I'm going to put yours up. So you're right. It's in the very air that we, well, it wasn't just your white dad. I have, in my family, we have all hues of blackness. And some of them are very, very fair skinned. Actually, some could pass. Very fair skin, very soft, straight to soft curly hair and freckles. And I remember one of my aunts, after I returned from being in Hawaii with this beautiful red copper skin, telling me I needed to stay out the sun because I was going to get too black. And it's so interesting that people are willing to white folks are willing to grease themselves down and bake like a chicken in a 400-degree oven to bring out the melanin, which exists in everybody's skin. I mean, with everybody's cells. It's not just on our skin. Melanin is within every cell of our bodies to try to come up with this. Why do you think dude is always orange? Because his pale white skin is ugly. So he bathes himself in something that he thinks makes him look healthy. And that is what white folks have been doing, even under the threat or the possibility of getting skin cancer. Let's put up another comment. So again, in the earlier part of the conversation, before I put up the next comment, we were talking about how our history is passed on by the stories that we're told by our grandparents and parents, our ancestors, and how there seems to have been a breakdown in the communication. That there are even Black people who think that racism doesn't exist because now we can get educations and become professionals and earn a lot of money and work around our white counterparts and be accepted until Buffy brings home Pookie with his pants bagging and a gold grill in his mouth. We'll talk about that. Yeah, that they don't think racism exists. You have the Candace Owen, who is a self-hating Black woman. Nobody will ever tell me anything differently, who actually gets paid to come out. She gets paid by white supremacists. To me, she's nothing more than a belly woman carrying water for supremacists. And at some point, that black baby she had, because ain't nobody looking at that baby and thinking it's white. I remember when she had the child, the people railing on her the most are the ones that she's associated with and comes on TV talking shit about us. So at some point, that chick is going to be niggerized, and she's going to be, it's going to be understood that you're not one of us at some point. Right now, she's paid to spread poison about her own people. Now that she's an honorary, a white woman married to a Brit. If yes, I have to agree. It's not even going to. It's beginning in our schools, Mary. We're, you know, that's the purpose of not of DeSantis, whose name, by the way, doesn't sound at all American to me. It sounds Portuguese. It sounds as if it could come from some sort of Spanish lineage.
He's Cuban.
Yeah, it's actually making it. You know, it's saying that they'll fire teachers, or somehow people will be punished. That you can't teach African American studies.
Would you like to read on that, Jace? Would you like to read on the direction of history, Black history, and just, you know, education, American education in general?
Okay.
Because it's trash. It is.
It's always been trash, but it's gotten worse.
It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. And then we're going to discuss that. Let me put up another. Electric Storm is saying the woke. Yeah, it was yeah.
Very true.
Very true. Very true. Because it strokes that thing. I think it's fear-based as well. These generations have progressed because no longer are we just accepting what our parents and our ancestors passed on to us, but we're actually studying. You said you've just done your testing to find out where your tribe is located.
Yeah, I did it a few years ago. I didn't go on 23andMe because they'll sell your information. It's in the fine print. It's, you know, your data or whatnot.
It goes into some
your genetics, and I don't want you keeping my genetics. I don't want any of that. But I went on AfricanAncestry.com. This is not sponsored. And it was great because I found out it'll trace you to the tribe and the country that you came from. So I got Equatorial Guinea. So it was two countries. I got Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon. And then they said I shared DNA with 3 tribes around there, particularly in Equatorial Guinea. There's an island called Bubai Island, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's the only Spanish-speaking island or Spanish-speaking country. Equatorial Guinea is in Africa because they were colonized by the
Spaniards.
So, and I remember it said I shared DNA with 3 tribes. So it said the Bubai tribe, Tika, Hausa, or the Fulani tribe.
Yes.
So, yes.
And we can talk about how the Hausa and the Fulani got along very well until the invasion of colonizers who pitted them against each other. But You're right. We're going to touch on that, Terry, about white aligned immigrants coming here. But first, what question are we asking the cards? Where educate? What is it? What would you think would be an appropriate question to ask the cards about education in America?
What's the energy around it, and what's the direction? Where is it going to go? Is it going to get any better? Is it going to get worse? When can Black history and be just a part of American history?
Well, it is American history.
That's what I'm saying.
The whole idea is to the whole idea has been to dehumanize us. That everything that's wrong with this country lies at the feet of Black people. There's only crime in black neighborhoods. I don't know if y'all watch Discovery ID, but white folks do some pretty heinous shit to each other when committing murders. We're going to ask the question, will education, where are we asking where it's, if education will be improved in this country?
Because that's a symptom. I mean, you can tell, you can see the control. What's the best way to control people? You dumb down the society, makes them more easy to control, makes them more afraid. So we see what they're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see, where is education? Well, the whole of American history be taught in schools. Because, see, we were taught that the slavers were genteel Southern men, that they weren't rapists, that they weren't cruel. You know, they just wanted a workforce. What did you get?
So the first card I got is the Six of Cups here. So back to basics, a sense of innocence. Also, this card is about reminiscing and going back on the past. It has good energy to me. So what this is kind of telling me, because is pointing in the direction that we're going to reverse some of this crazy stuff that's going to be going on. We're going to go back to basics, because then it's followed up by, see, you got Ra here in the Sun card. So the abundance is, we're going to get a lot more clarity on the issues. But here's the thing. Then I got the Two of Coins here. So it's going to be a matter of putting the funding. We're going to be wrestling with what exactly, how to fund it, what problems we need to really put into finding solutions for the school. Where's the money going to go? Where specifically, where is the money going to go? And then on the back of the deck, I have the Emperor card. So then you have the control. So I'm going to say it is going to get better. I think it is going to get better, but it's the same shit, different day. As far as, well, how are we going to do it? Where are we going to put the money? Well, where do we start? Just start. You know what I mean? Do something. Stop making it so convoluted.
Well,
what'd you get?
I got on the bottom of the deck I have, and I'm using my beautiful cards that Johnny purchased for me when I first began. I'm still a beginner, but this says to me that plans are being set in motion with the Three of Wands. That uh, you know, uh, almost like we're just waiting for the ships to come in, or waiting for the change. But as you can see, this woman is on the path. You know, she's walking, she's not waiting for the ship to come in, she's walking towards the ship. And that this is it has been a long journey, and that in fact it may continue to be a long journey, but that there are plans being set in motion.
Okay.
uh at the top, I don't know, I got a lot of wands. I have the five of wands, which is indicative of opposing sides,
Mm-hmm.
disagreements and arguments. So perhaps the arguments are around how we're going to get there as a people, or the disagreements that we are currently experiencing in our school systems, because Betsy DeVos came in and wanted to, put up charter schools and take funding away from public schools. Why? Because in this country, public schools are filled with Black and brown children, so that there's still opposing sides to wanting the true history of this nation to be taught. Uh, ooh, gosh, I felt a chill just then. I
Mm.
felt a chill. And let me just go to. I have to use a reference because these are brand. I've had these cards for a while, but because they were so pretty, I didn't want to use them. I guess, but because I feel that it's important for me to not only walk the walk and talk. I just not only to talk the talk. I have to walk it too. You know. So let me see what's the next card. Jesus, keep me near the cross and help me find my help me
Cool.
find what I'm looking for. All right, and the next cup I had next is the Four of Cups. I'm just pulling from the top of the deck. The Four of Cups. This says to me that that we as a people are unsatisfied with what we see happening to education, not just for our children, but for every child that goes to school. We're unsatisfied with, because it's more of the same. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's in the ether. It's the same recycled bullshit. Um, Same old tired shit, different day. My next card I'm gonna pull from the bottom of the deck. Uh Child. Y'all bear with me. Bear with me. As I said, I'm still learning. A lot of what I see in a card is but you know what, the sun here, it's hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this no, this is the
It's the
moon.
moon.
This
Is
is
it
the
a
moon,
moon?
but it's a bright moon. It's a full moon. So I still see this as hope. That is uh hope is there. And you see this woman is praying her prayers. She's praying her prayers. The bottom of the deck says the hermit.
Mm.
It's going to require a lot of internal searching. It's going to require that all of us, black, white, whatever color you, it's going to require some isolation, some deep diving into you and what your thoughts and how with all of what is going on within this educational system, it's going to require that I see here with the lantern. It's going to require um, continuing to search, but not necessarily out searching for ways, but not outside of yourself. This is going to require that we look inside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to pull one more from the top. And what I get on the top, let's see here, is if I can find it. I can't read my own handwriting as neat as it is sometimes. And thank you, Johnny, because I did study with him, and I think I need to go. I just need to go back. I need to also trust that what I'm getting is equally as it's valid, it's real, even if you. I don't think that in this situation there is a right or wrong. And what I am looking for, if I could just stop overlooking, let me look at this ride. I wanted to, would you pull out your rider weight and get me the 8 of Cups? Because in my 8 of Cups, I'm feeling that even through this abandonment, it feels like abandonment. Even with this, I feel like that. I feel as if we're still moving towards her new horizons because we're still on a path. We're still moving forward. And that to me is a good thing. So there is hope as long as we have strong educators. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we have strong educators who are saying, you will not tell me what to teach in my class. You won't tell me how to teach it. It will require that the teachers themselves stand up and say, you know what, this is some show enough bullshit. Hi, Tammy Ulrich. And Beth, you have to leave. Oh, well, fix dinner and I hope it's good. Thank you for joining us, Beth M.
Thank you.
That there is going to be, I hope. Let's ask if the teachers themselves are going to stand up on behalf. The sincere educators, not the ones just going to school to get a check. But let's see if the true educators, the ones that are really out there because they are molding the minds of the future, if they themselves are going to stand up.
Let's see.
The teachers themselves. Going to stand up on behalf, the true educators.
So here's what I got, Jay. The first card I got straight out is this devil card. It's not going to be easy. I think that's all the bullshit that's going on between the people coming in, threatening the teachers' lives, these crazies getting on school boards. It's just a mess. And you can see snakes, like this snake here.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of snakes in the grass, and you see the corpses. This is all the corpses in its wake here.
Mm-hmm.
Just a grotesque shit show, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Then I got the Knight of Coins. So this I'm seeing is grassroots. So I do see teachers getting together. It's going to be slow, but it's going to be steady.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to come together. And then at the end, I have the justice card. So yes, they will. Karma is going to come back around. Up under the bottom of the deck, I have the Five of Wands. So they're going to come out to fight. They're going to come out swinging.
Yes.
So I see some positivity going on.
Well, the first one I have is a strength card. That there are indeed educators who are locked and loaded and ready to take on this very difficult task. Not just educators, but parents themselves will have to begin to take an active role in the education of their children. And with this overtaking of our school boards by, again, QAnon and racists and whatever, that it's going to require the strength of the educators and the parents, the public at large is going to have to be strong because it is going to be a fight. I also have on the bottom of the deck the Hierophant, that the government is going to have to make changes. Now, we already see where state governments are doing things that are totally, for instance, in Florida, it to me would be a First Amendment right. Why are you muzzling the teachers?
Right.
So it may require that the federal government gets involved somehow and helps to facilitate the change in our education system. And I mean with real people, with real warriors, with real warriors. And now I see at the bottom of this deck also, I have I ain't committed jack to I have the Three of Cups. So while it's going to be, it's going to require strength. While there will be fighting. While it will actually have, we get the Queen of Cups again. I mean the Four of Cups. What am I talking about? Four of Cups.
What the four, Jay?
That's the four. Yeah, learn to count. 1, 2, 3, 4.
American
education ain't shit. Okay.
It's Roman numerals. It's fine.
Right. No, but I know Roman numerals, and I knew what we're still saying is that it's because of the fact that they're educators and parents who are unsatisfied with what the deal is, that they are still going to stand up, and there will be demands that it's going to take strength. There will be demands that the federal government does what it needs to do to help get things, since y'all like paper and pen so much, make it a law that that somehow nobody's history, nobody who lives on this soil should, and especially if they're born here, no one should be denied knowledge of self. They shouldn't be denied knowledge of their people. They shouldn't be, just because it ain't pretty to you. No, it's not pretty. But again, America wasn't, blown kisses from, I think it was Charles who was king. They weren't blown kisses and say, yeah, bye, y'all. We hope that it's going to be something wonderful. No, it was built on violence.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Use the word.
with change can be traumatic. Okay, so let's move on to another topic and something that I have noticed um in in today's society. I have you noticed how commercials for products and services, etc., are featuring interracial couples.
I have noticed this. It is blatant, very blatant, and why I don't have no problem with it, because I think love is love is love is love. It's the most pure thing anybody can ask for, want, get, receive, and otherwise. I feel like the marketing of it is nasty and just disingenuous. I really do. Because you want to paint, and this speaks to the country, America as a whole. We're all about the show and no substance, baby. We want to
Mm-hmm.
sit here and, we're diverse and X, Y, and Z. I mean, I know you have the crazies just recently coming out, but for so long, that's what the country was praising itself on. The diversity, how anybody can come here, X, Y, and Z. But when
Yeah,
you just
giving you
peel back the
time
curtain,
for
you peel back the layers, and you see that America treats its people in general like crap, and it treats their minorities even more so like crap. So you see that we're constantly fighting this hypocrisy of the country, whereas we have the nation that we proclaim ourselves to be, or our dreams, what we dream of ourselves to be, and then we have what's actually going on, how it's actually affecting people day to day, and it's very, very different. And
I
we have to rectify. We're at the crossroads, and America is. We have to keep in mind, everyone, while we rag on our country, it is a young country. We are the teenagers.
baby. Yeah.
We're literally in, I like to think of it, America is in our shitty teen years, where we not listening to nobody. We think we know everything, this is how it should be done, and we really don't know anything. We're going through growing pains. We will get through it as long as we can come together, and be the United States of America, people. United.
For real. And that will come with the first of all, being able, white America and some black Americans alike, to accept the truth of this nation, to accept that systemic racism is real, it ain't made up, to accept the fact that not every that while we want to tout ourselves as being this benevolent, accepting of all nation, that at this point you're going to either be that or you're going to be destroyed. This is George Jetson's space age. So we cannot go around talking to other nations about their treatment and of others, their human rights act or lack of them, when they can look in on us. Because I do believe that that crazy bastard who wants to be a czar someday has even said that. How can you talk to me about what's going on here when we see clearly the way you're treating your citizens?
Mm-hmm. That's right. You want to read? You want to read about that, Jace? Is there any ulterior? What's the agenda
Yes,
behind all of the interracial? Like, it's blatant, like it's in your face. There
it
should,
really is.
and I don't know if, like, but
And
yeah,
it's
let's read on
usually
it.
a
Let's
black
read on it.
man and a white woman.
I see both sides, Jace. I see both sides. I see just as many black women with white men, and I also see a lot of you. You're getting into the women territory. I've seen that too,
Yes.
in the
Yes.
commercials. So yes,
But I was just thinking that for me, the most I have seen, while I have seen black women with white men, look, I have dated the United Nations child from Algiers to Zimbabwe, from the UK over to the Japlands. I mean, I have. So I am. I think now I might be a little bit bigoted in some of my thinking, but it has to do with what I've experienced. You know what I've experienced. So the question we're asking now is, what is the agenda, right?
if there is any,
Isn't
well,
if
but
there
it's
is,
always an agenda with
huh?
this.
Yeah, I don't like the word either.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's overused. So what are we asking?
like what is there? I mean, it's a relevant word, but is there any ulterior motives behind this, or is it simply, as what they say, we're just trying to promote togetherness? We're trying to promote. I mean, it rings hollow because, like what we said, it's in the substance. All talk and no substance, all show, but is it innocent, or is there something more nefarious going on?
Okay.
Are they trying to rile people up, or what's going on?
Okay. Whoops. I'm going to back out and come back in, y'all. Give me a minute. I did something to my screen. Just hold on.
Okay. What do you all think? I don't know, because I've noticed a lot of it. And I don't have no problem. I really love seeing people get along and all of that.
Thank you for
But
holding it down. Thank you for holding it. Did you read some of the comments?
I am reading them now, actually.
Mary Thorntonberry made a comment about capitalism. And let me put it back up. She believes that as long as we're living under capitalism, racism will always survive. Capitalism cannot survive with the oppression of many people, black and white. You know what it actually is the haves versus the have-nots. It really isn't a color thing, but it's been kind of painted as such. And what did Electra responded? She says that racism would still be there, even if it's, as long as there are differences. And I'm going to say a lot of this came from westernized teaching of the Bible and the Christ, because you were not known as a race of people when that manifestation of love was on the earth. It was by tribe. So you said Canada is about the same. Hey, Cheryl, thank you for joining us. Yep, we are a baby country. And while we might be bagging on it and pointing out what can be improved upon, I still understand why people risk life and limb to get here. While there are millions of people at the border trying to cross over that sacred line to be in this country, and then we can move on to the Satan and his even more insidious plans with immigrants. But right now, we're asking, what's the question? Is it motive or message?
Yeah, motive. motive message. I pulled on it, and what I got is really interesting, actually. I got the first thing out the gate is the star card here.
All right.
So hope, a sense of direction from point A to point B, kind of a destiny type thing. Then the next card I got is the Empress card.
All
So
right.
fertility and beauty. This is Venusian type energy, you know. And then I got the Emperor, so a sense of control. So do they want us to start mixing? Because that's what this is reading to me like. Then I got the Page of Coins, so that's the youngest, newest energy in the deck. So what, messages, information, a type of communication here. And then another Page of Wands, so which is a young person. So to me, this is reading like they want people to mix it up.
Mix it up. There are some who
Oh,
think
wow.
that it's being mixed up. Well, there's some who believe that the mixing of the blood is because the white blood is weak and they need the strength. That, and since blood is the life force, that they
That's
need the strength
interesting.
of. Now, I've had conversations with people who believe this sincerely. So it's about strengthening their bloodlines.
I did not expect to get that at all. That's kind of, I'm kind of shook right now. I'm shook.
Okay. Well, I was shook when the peoples, when they even said it. You know, it's like, wow. I mean, that there's something about that that makes me very, very uncomfortable. Uh, Even the thought of it makes me uncomfortable. So, you know. Anyway, let me see if I can. What I
Now,
have
what did you get,
here,
Jay?
huh?
Yeah, what did I was gonna say? What did you get, Jace? I'm really
I'm
curious
ready. The
now.
first from the top is the Ace
Of
of
Pentacles.
Pentacles.
Ooh,
So, can we look at it as being, hmm,
new
an
opportunity.
opportunity, of course, with,
Uh,
uh, uh, but you know, Pentacles is money too. So
yeah.
I'm wondering. I'm gonna pull something else because I'm really, frankly, I'm not understanding. But for me, the Ace of Pentacles has always been something positive and
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, perhaps there is something genuine about the messaging, that it's actually that. Well, we know why advertising is there. You know, let's don't get it twisted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The way things are being marketed and advertised could potentially uh, be a positive thing, that this is the direction that the this is the direction the country is moving, and that there are people who are in interracial marriages with biracial children, that there are folks who really yearning to be accepted for their family units. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that there's something um, genuine about the messaging. It's not just about selling the product, but it
Mm-hmm.
could have something to do with the acceptance of marriages that don't look like, you know, the Leave It to Beaver type marriage. And then now I have what in this card, in this one, I have more pentacles. I have the goddess of pentacles.
Ooh.
Look at her. Isn't she? Wait a minute. Isn't she fab?
Oh man.
Yeah.
You're funny.
Uh, hmm. Okay. This is like a mothering kind of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a strong woman, a woman who's capable of taking care of herself and her needs and the needs of others. You know, she's confident. So this, let me change. The mother of the goddess of Pentacles says to me that once again, um, it'll be driven by women. That this desire to be this desire to be accepted, that that families that aren't, that again don't look like what I saw growing up, the you know, that there were only white folks on TV, you know. This looks to me like this is largely, this message is largely being driven by women, and they're being driven by women who actually um, are loving. I think it just gives me a loving vibe. What do you think?
I think so. I'm getting a lot of mothering. I'm getting a lot of nurturing.
Nurturing, yeah.
Yeah.
That they may even be the ones who have the hand in creating these kinds, because you know, I don't know that men really, well, we know men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but I don't know that men would actually be that sensitive. Some men are, but that they would be that sensitive in the messaging. It would probably be more about driving the marketing. I don't know. I think that women are probably solidly behind what is going on, because if you've had babies that are biracial, then you would only want the best for them and your family. So, and you
Mhm.
know what I mean? Any mother, any loving mother would want that. So I'm thinking women are largely driving it. And I get the Chariot, which we know that it has, that we, some people say it means things are moving
Mm.
swiftly. Some say because the sphinxes are going in opposite directions, that if it could possibly be a medium, let's not say slow or fast, but it could be movement at any rate. It could be movement towards accepting families as they are, families that because of somebody's skin color, you get with them because you love them, and because we have this lovely ace that is saying, yeah, it's there's something sweet and sincere about the messaging, and because we have women who are really probably the mothers themselves of interracial children or whatever, that this message is important to them, because no mother wants, you know, how many times I have a biracial niece, and her father's mother thought because she didn't believe in the mixing of races, and as a matter of fact had no use for black people, that she just knew my niece would be reared to hate. No loving parent is ever going to teach their children hate. And that's what my mother had to tell her. We don't teach hate in this household. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And so now we get that there is movement, that the
I
only,
I also get too, Chase, that like you see how you have the black and the white sphinx there.
yes.
And it's not even so much about the speed of movement, but the fact that it's a struggle in general. It's gonna be a fight uh for that opportunity there.
Oh, well, absolutely. Because the next card is the Two of Swords. So we know that there are going to be people turning a blind eye, people that just simply don't want to know. As long as they don't know it or have to see it, they don't have to accept it. But I think they're fooling themselves because it's in your face. I mean, look at all the guys in the NFL who are married to women of other races. I don't know that I've seen any that have a black wife. That's not to say they don't exist, because I ain't no big football fan to begin with. But I do recall hearing on one of those ratchet ass shows that I used to watch some time ago that you rarely saw within the NFL a black woman married to an NFL player. So as long as I don't have to see it, I don't have to acknowledge it, I can stay in this space of not having to accept it or reject it, because it ain't got nothing to do with me. You know, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And you're right. There will be heartache along the way. There will be heartache along the way. It will be a struggle. And there will be heartache. So now, speaking of, okay, let's kind of lighten it up a little.
Let's lighten it up.
Yeah, let's light it up a little bit, because these topics this topic we're discussing is something that we could continue to talk on like forever.
Yes.
But I do think that these conversations are necessary, because how is anything ever going to change if we're never discussing it or talking about it? Hold on, I'm going to turn some lights on in here. Let's go to the Golden Globes.
Yay! Did you watch the Golden Globes, Jim?
I did not.
I did not either. I seen some of the looks, though. I seen some of the
looks too. Some of them were hits. Some of them were misses. It seems that people are more interested in wearing pasties and G-strings. I just don't get it. To me, to be sexy is an attitude. It's not how few clothes you can wear. You could put on sackcloth and ashes and still be exuding that sex appeal.
That's right.
So the last message I want to say is that there is an element of love going on within the messaging, that perhaps there's a purity about it. But I want to move on to the Golden Globes, because the people had something to say about a comment that one of the queens of our acting community, Cheryl Lee Ralph, they wanted to make a big deal out of a comment she made when she was asked, with her 15-year-old daughter standing next to her, of course, in the editing on some of the shows that showed this interview, you didn't see her daughter. She was asked a question: what would you tell your, after she's gotten all this shine now, after beginning in the original Dreamgirls, a stage play, and being on different TV shows and stuff and movies, she was asked, what would you tell your 15-year-old self today? Her response was, and I'm just paraphrasing because it's not exact, she's saying that, I would tell my 15-year-old self that there's nothing wrong with my hair, the way it grows out of my head. There's nothing wrong with my lips. There's nothing wrong with the color of my skin. Because as long as there's nothing wrong with the shape of my body, because as long as there are Kardashians, there's always going to be somebody who, pretty much who put us down and deprive us of opportunity, but desires to go out and get surgically altered so that they can look like us. So what are your thoughts about that comment?
Well, that is 1,000% true. With this modern era that we're growing up in social media, the whole phenomenon of blackfishing became a thing. Did you hear about that?
Blackfishing?
They
What's
called
that?
it blackfishing was where you would have people who were non-black typically, or more so of a lighter complexion, and they would change features and filters and everything else on Instagram to make them appear more ethnic. And they would get sponsorships and money and a lot of attention for this, even though that's not what you look like. All
Well,
right.
what happens when they show up looking like their truth?
That's the thing. That's
You
why they
put up
use
your
them
prom picture.
online.
Put up your prom picture where you were looking halfway decent. You show up, toe up from the floor up.
Yeah,
I
it,
mean,
it, it got crazy for a minute there. There was a whole outcry, and yeah, they made a name for it. It was called blackfishing.
well, she caught heat, but she said, I said what I said, and now I'm going to bed. She didn't take it back. What would some of you tell your 15-year-old self? What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Ooh. I would tell my 15-year-old self that um it's this time is very finite, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It will pass. That's what I would tell my 15-year-old self. It will pass. Because when you're a teenager, you think it is just the end
Oh,
of the world, that people don't like you. If
right.
you're not a part of this clique, if you don't have this, if you don't have that, if you this boy that I like don't like me no more, it's the end of the world, he dumped me.
Oh
It
my
will
God,
pass.
you're looking into my 15-year-old life and
Mm-hmm.
my desire to want to be. I was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, wanting to be with who I thought were the cool girls and wanting to be accepted by them, when in fact they were just mean girls and jealous. Let's see, anybody in the comments? I think it was it you, Mary Thornton-Berry, who said that they would tell their 15-year-old self, which I think was really lovely. I would tell my 15-year-old self that she's free to be her. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. I
Yep.
think that is beautiful. That kind of sums it up, because I shared with Tia how I was a little girl. I think I was in first grade when it was brought to my attention that I even had a color. I wasn't thinking in terms of black and white until a white boy called. I was on the swings. I told you I wasn't a social person. I would get to the swings and I would get on a swing and I would swing as high as I could. And I would sing songs while I was swinging with my eyes closed, enjoying whatever sun I could catch. And this white boy just kind of jerked the chain and stopped the swing and demanded, "Get off that swing, you chocolate bar." And I was offended because he had interrupted my groove. So, and then it didn't sound like he dug chocolate. So I do remember punching him in the eye and running to my first grade teacher, telling her that I didn't feel well. And because all of a sudden something was on my mind. My hair wasn't golden. Of course it is now. My hair wasn't golden. It didn't blow in the wind. My skin didn't look the color of like the light-skinned boys and girls, black kids who had the green eyes and who were considered to be the prettiest or the most handsome. I had a moment when my mother had to take me out. She could see I was distressed because when we came home from school, we had to get out of our school clothes and get in our play clothes. You had to wash up, put on your play clothes, and I was in the bathroom, and I think I might have stayed in a little longer than usual. And my mother came in, but I think she might have caught a glimpse of me looking in the mirror and tugging at my pigtail and having tears, and had the comment out, and I was rubbing to get this skin color off. So I think whatever if she was planning to scold me, that quickly changed because she saw I was distressed. And I had to tell her when she came in, I just broke down and started crying to tell her. I remember her taking me in her arms, and I was crying because my hair didn't blow in the wind, even though on one Halloween, I wanted to be a princess. And the only, those bag costumes, there was a little, fire, a dress that you couldn't get near flames with, and this little tacky ass blonde wig. And she said, okay, you can be a princess, but why don't we get this wig for you? She was, and I just insisted because of the images I'd seen of princesses who were all blonde. Mm-hmm. I wanted blonde hair. But even at that juncture, I still wasn't thinking in terms of color. So she probably prayed for me all day because in my mind, I was fabulous, honey. I did not care I'm sure the kids were looking like, what? I thought I had me some blonde hair. And I thought I was the bomb. She walked me through her flower garden. My parents were excellent gardeners. They always had and were getting rewards for their beautiful gardens, flower gardens and the vegetable gardens. I share with Tia that my first business enterprise was a vegetable garden. So, I had a little stand and I was selling what we had in the garden. But she walked me through her flower garden, and she walked me through. They would always have different kinds of flowers and different colors, very colorful. And she would take me through each group of flowers and have me look at the structure of the flower and how even though the flower was the same color and was in the family of that particular kind of flower, none of them looked alike, that they were all distinctly different. And she walked me through it was a long walk. She walked me through the entire yard, and we had this discussion, and we smelled flowers. And she talked to me about the beauty of color, how that's one of the most wonderful creations of God, color. And that she taught me that my skin was beautiful. My skin color was beautiful. See how the sun warms your skin. See how the sun embraces you. Your skin is beautiful. Look at your beautiful hair. I can put a hot comb on it and press it, which is what they would do then. Or when I wash it, it's the same hue and the same hair, but it takes on a different texture. I'd had my lips called soup coolers. She talked the beauty of a beautiful full mouth. I mean, she really gave me the business in teaching me to love myself. And Lupita Nyong'o shared a story the same way that her mother had to teach her about her black skin and the beauty of her skin and her heritage. So I think at 15, while I may have known those things, I was still struggling. And at 15, I would say the very same, that there will be plenty more people that you'll fall in love with, that this boy was not the last. He might have been the first, but you'll survive. That, that your dreams are real and totally achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Totally achievable, that you can reach for the stars and actually catch one. So
That's
I
right.
think
Amen.
that's what I tell my 15-year-old self. um let's see what Jaconda is saying. Never forget the struggle. You are absolutely right. I couldn't
Yes.
agree with you more. And I know that we have not forgotten the struggle. And I realize our conversation may have gone all over the place. So we'll come back and revisit it. But I did want to hear from a millennial. Where did we fail you? I mean, where did the older generation fail you? When did we cease to? I think what has happened with also the older generation is that we don't want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be the ones telling you what you should think and how you should go about doing something instead of listening to you, because this world is yours. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be here forever. What do
Yes,
you think?
right.
What do you think?
I agree with what you said, Jace. And I think part of it comes from just the complacency from one era, marching, doing that work. Then you had all those bills and rights and things that were passed in that block, and the acceptance of, oh, okay, well, we must be good now. We can get into that store. We
Yeah,
can, our kids can play together. Nobody is telling me I can't be here, for the most part, on the books. So I think a part of it is the complacency. The other part, like you said, is just a generational gap. The other part is it has nothing to do, it's by no fault of our own, with whereas the system came in and the whole crack era and the epidemic, which we know
affected
was
the world, not just.
yes, which was done. It just showed up, in neighborhoods overnight. How does that happen? That took out whole generations, whole families were displaced, and I think that has something to do with it as well. It's a combination of factors, but we have to just get together and actually listen to each other, because you have a lot of people that talk, but a lot of people don't want to listen.
They don't want to listen. And I know that you're right, Jaconda. But you know what? I didn't know anything about Black schools and Black teachers
Mm-hmm.
until we visited Texas. And I attended a school with my cousins there. There were Black teachers and Black students. And the teacher was so impressed with my ability to read. And I always read with a sense of drama and flair. I was pet for the day and hated by the kids. It's like, who
Who she thinks she is?
I didn't think I was anything. It was like she asked me to participate, and participate I did. Well, okay. Now I want to talk about Harry and Meghan. I love them
Okay.
together. I
I do
really do.
too.
I love them together. And I want to ask you about him pointing out the history of his family and how they benefited from the slave trade. Now, it ain't nothing we didn't already know, but to have it come out of the mouth of someone who was part of the major colonizer of the world, how the riches that they have didn't come from the backyard of Buckingham Palace, that those diamonds and precious jewels and gems and stuff came at the price of Black people and Africa and slavery. What are your thoughts about Harry? What are your thoughts? First of all, I wish people leave them alone. I wish, because
Same.
what we saw through the British people who were incensed that he would marry a biracial woman. Of course, she's Black to them. That we saw the racism come out with the way they attacked Meghan and still seem to attack her. What do you think about Harry coming out and just saying, look, this is I'm the one saying it. You may know it, but it's coming out of my mouth now because I want you to know that I'm aware of it. What do you think about the book? I haven't read it. I'm kind of listening to it on Audible spare. What are you thinking about Harry and his freedom?
I love Harry.
I've
always loved Harry. I've always had a thing for redheads. Don't tell nobody.
A ginger.
Yes, I always had a thing for gingers. Yes, but I respect Harry because he is willing to look within himself and do the work it takes and make no excuses for it. We have so many people that want to make excuses, that don't want to look at what they did, that don't want to actually atone for anything or just apologize for just, maybe it might be something as simple as, I didn't know, I wasn't aware, or I apologize for making you feel that way. How can I be better? How can we understand, come to an understanding, come to a consensus? And I admire Harry because he is willing to do that work, put it out there on the line and say, look, I'm out now. I'm here now. I might as well, might as well blow it up. Might as well put it all out there.
I always had a thing for Harry. He made, William seemed to be so button up, and when he was young, everybody was talking about how handsome he was, blah, 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 blah. But he looked like button up and boring to me. Harry, on the other hand, had that red hair, the whole thing had a sense of excitement about it, that he was a fun guy, that he liked Snoop Dogg and the hip hop cats, and the one thing that I think came really to his attention was to have his own family begin to question him and his marriage to Meghan, and how he, she was called difficult, and just the things that were being said about her, and how they really tried to discourage him from marrying her. I think that perhaps with this marriage, it was like in your face racism, because the Brits were acting as if Meghan was this kind of witch. Now, don't get it wrong. Now, Black girl power is strong and it is real, but they began to act as if Harry had no brain cells. That his desire to be with her and his change had something to do with her. That when she became pregnant, they were concerned about whether or not the baby, what color the baby was going to be. But, she's got a white father.
And I want to point this out too, Jace, that happens in marriages and in coupleism regardless. You know the stories of, your son or daughter marries somebody and you feel like they don't do all the things you want them to do anymore. or they don't act the way you want them to act no more, you're not going to blame your child. You're
No.
going to put all that onus, all that hatred, and you're going to say, oh, it's your spouse. It's that person that's controlling them, not knowing how you degrade your own loved one, because you make them sound like they're empty-headed, like they can't make their own decisions, and they're just a puppet, used to the whims of the evil spouse. So I was not surprised that any of that happened. I was not surprised when they decided to leave. Who are they gonna blame? They're gonna blame
Gonna blame Megan.
you bitch, you took him away from us. How dare
Right,
you?
right. And even being asked why he didn't marry a proper white British girl, I'm gonna say this. It took courage. He probably didn't think it would take care. Hey, Clarence, I don't think it would it he didn't think of it as being a courageous thing to marry the woman he has called the love of his life. It took courage for him to step away from everything he has ever known. From what I remember, he had let it be known to his family that if they didn't accept her, that he would leave and go to California to be with her anyway. He was that determined. I've heard sections of the book where even when the queen invited her over to pick out a crown, the queen's dresser or whatever screwed them around on bringing the crown over while she was getting fitted for her wedding gown, and how Kate refused to come to the fitting, saying the dresses were a mess and that Charlotte cried and blah, like we're now finding out about what was really going on behind the scenes. I don't care who you are. I don't care. I mean, in that family, it wasn't the first time somebody got married to somebody that the royals didn't, his great uncle Edward abdicated. He said, I don't want to be king. I want to be with this woman that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care what anybody says. Who wouldn't want to hear that they are the love of somebody's life? He walked away from everything to protect his family, and because he loves her that much. And it would really be nice if motherfuckers would leave him alone. You miserable pieces of shit. Leave them alone.
It's unnecessary, the
It is.
amount of hate they get. It really is.
It is. Uh, I do want to first of all thank everybody who's joined us, because it's been quite a conversation, and I was actually calmer than I was a few days ago because I was off the chain with my anger about how these white supremacists are using Dr. King's words to kind of justify their racism, or they throw in that he was a Republican. Look, he wouldn't have put up with this fuck shit. I don't care what you believe or what you think you know about him, but how dare you stand up and use his words to justify your bullshit. Yeah. And it's been a great conversation. We were kind of off the cuff, which is what I like. Perhaps in the future we'll do more readings. If you all want to ask questions from the chat, you can. Let's see what Cheryl Simpson says. Yeah, it took courage for him to do that. It took courage. And his grandmother stripped him of all the things that he would have been entitled to as the Prince Is he a Duke of York? Is that his Duke and Duchess of York?
They're of Sussex, I
Sussex,
think.
right. I don't. They got so many goddamn
Yeah. Yeah,
dukes
Sussex,
and
I
duchesses
believe.
and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, they weren't accustomed to having a woman who actually worked for herself and thought for herself. Meghan was earning money. I don't know how much of a star she was, but she was working. She was a working actor, and she was earning her own money. And in America, Kate has never done that. She, her whole thing is to squeeze out some babies and to be queen. And I ain't mad at her. That's what you married into, and that's what I expect will happen. Um, but I do think that sometimes Americans are largely misunderstood because we just don't think, and especially a family where you're not allowed to show any kind of emotion or affection. You have to always, you can't cry in public. You have to be buttoned up and prim and proper all the time. I think he is happy that in spite of wanting to be, wishing that he and his family could come together, I think that he is happy that he is uh, free, that he's free. And so before we go, we'll pull an oracle. Each of us will pull an oracle card.
And I was gonna say this too, Jace. They definitely, I don't know if, I think Harry said this in his book, or he might have mentioned it, but there was jealousy there as far as Harry and Meghan taking all the shine
Oh, yeah.
away from, Kate and William. And like you said, William has always been kind of dull. And to be honest, if we have to keep it 100%, Kate was the only bit of shine William got on him, because it was a commotion saying that she was a commoner. Remember,
Right.
it was all, he was getting a little bit of shine off that thing. Here comes Harry showing me up again, god damn it, with his half black, divorced American actress woman.
And gorgeous, baby.
Beautiful.
And had a sense of style, who's gorgeous, who knows how to dress. I mean, of course, people were looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
People were, of course, Kate is dull her damn self. She has no sense of style as much as she may think she does. No, boo, you do not. And if they want to be hateful of somebody, please remember how Camilla and Charles got together. Don't y'all
Yes,
forget, that was
let's not
not,
forget that.
that was some real shady shit.
Yes, it was.
Real shady.
We
So
must not forget.
that's right. So it may, don't do that. So we're gonna pull an oracle card to leave you with something good, I hope. We will be back. We'll be back here again next Saturday. We usually try to come on between 4 and 6 early in the day because Raz has a whole family that she has to tend to. And I just really love her. So I'm happy we found each other. I'm just delighted that we have come together like this. So we're going to leave y'all with a message today that you can carry with you for the next few minutes or through the week, or whenever you feel like you need to pull on some good news, that you think about something we've said over here.
You want to go first,
No,
Stacy?
you
You want
go
me?
ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm pulling from the Crystal Spirits Oracle here, and this is perfect per the conversation that we were having. I pulled blue lace agate. Look at that.
Ooh, I love blue lace agate. That's one of my favorite
Beautiful.
stones. It is.
And the essential meaning we have is peaceful acceptance, stress free non attachment, freedom from unnecessary dramas. And
Mm.
it reads as such: although crystal seems solid and permanent, all things on this earth change over time, even the minerals and the rocks. Transformation can be slow and nearly imperceptible, but we are always changing. Our lives flow like a river, slowly or quickly, but always in motion, and that's a good thing. The appearance of blue lace agate spirit calls for you to embrace the possibility of change without stress. You
Mm.
are not too old, too late, too stuck in your own way, too anything. You are enough, and you will have help as you dare to be different and step into a new destiny, finding your purpose with peace in your heart instead of living according to the old patterns probably created long before you even thought about your habits and belief systems. Why hold on to a past that causes you stress and anxiety? It's already changing anyway. Impermanence is the nature of everything, and the conscious universe has so many ideas for how to help you be fulfilled, balanced, and joyful. Blue lace agate encourages you to relax and go with the flow. It opens the throat chakra and assists in clear yet gentle communication. Meditation with this stone can assist in slowing thought, clearing the mind, and connecting with angels and guides.
I love that. I love that. My card comes from the Temple of Griot. I'm coming from the African Goddess Rising Oracle cards, and it is Yasigi. And let me take this down. Once again, I do not like the mouse pad too much. I like the mouse. I done
Mm-hmm.
something to the screen that makes it bigger than I need it to be. But Yasigi is the goddess, and she tells us to live out loud. She is from the Dogon. She is the goddess of living out loud. So she is revered in the Dogon in Mali. And it says Yasigi has a reputation of being a free spirited party goddess. For the Dogon people of Mali, she was the very first Yasigni. The Yasignis are women empowered to participate in the mass dances. Express yourself. I think the agate stone said that to do that. You have something to say, share your voice and magic. Express your you-ness. The way you express yourself won't make everyone happy. That's okay. You're not meant to. Living out loud and self expression look different for everyone. For outgoing extroverts, self expression may mean dancing on tables and screaming your points of view. Introverts may speak out in other ways and save the louder parts of their personalities for their loved ones. And her declaration is I'm free to express myself fully.
Mm.
So live out loud. And I'm going to tell you what a friend of mine told me many years ago. He said, be anything, but don't be a dull bitch. Thank you, Jerry McCann, for that. You would be proud because I pray of anything but that.
And let's upgrade that to dull, and let's say don't be basic, as
Oh,
we would say
yeah,
nowadays.
nowadays, just don't be basic. Basic
Don't
is
be
so tired.
basic.
So I want to thank all of you. We've been on for 2.5 hours, which is new for us. I want to thank all of you for who stayed to Sharon's site. And I think it was Beth who had to get off. I want to thank you all for spending this time with us. You could have been anywhere else on this Saturday evening, and you spent it with us. So thank you, Black Cat
Thank
and
you.
Cheryl Simpson, Mary Thornberry, Jaconda, my rider, Die, Clarence. Thank you for coming on for the short time that you got here. I hope you go back and listen. Thank you. Let's see who else was here. Again, for Sharon. Thank you, Electra Storm. I think what I'm going to try to do is have a giveaway at some point. I just don't know what I'm going to be giving away. But I really do appreciate you all. So we will bid you all a good evening. Have great meals, great conversation. Thank you, Tammy, for coming on. I hope you all like and subscribe. If you feel moved to donate, by all means do so. It's not a requirement to be here. I just enjoy your company. So enjoy your evening, and we'll see you back here next Saturday. Bye-bye, everyone. I'm going to have to back out and come in again so I can find the me and my bumble fingers. For real, though. In the broadcast now. Walk in love and beauty.
Yes, yes. Have a good weekend, everybody.